Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar titled How to Attract and Retain Key Employees. I'm Amber Fox with the National Tile Contractors Association. I want to welcome you and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend today's webinar, which is sponsored by busybusy. Before I introduce today's speaker, I want to remind you that during the webinar, you will be muted. Please use the questions area on your computer to type in your questions. I will answer your questions at the end of this presentation, or more so, the group will. If the audio on your computer is poor, call the number on the invite to the webinar and listen on your phone. All NTCA webinars are available to watch at any time on the NTCA YouTube channel shortly after the webinars are presented, giving you easier access to watch and/or share all current and past programs at your convenience. Today we have two presenters, Isaac Barlow, the founder and CEO of busybusy, and a technology innovator in the construction industry. He grew up as a contractor, working every position from direct labor to general manager and eventually owning his own construction company. Isaac's knowledge of industry, combined with his drive to find better systems for construction management, led to the development of busybusy, Inc. In addition to busybusy, Isaac has ownership in multiple construction companies. Our second speaker, Derrik Shakespear, CRO of busybusy, has spent 20 years leading, hiring, and training employees at many different companies. His achievements include growing a company from $300,000 to $40 million in revenue in only 3 years. He hired and trained over 80% of the workforce during that 3-year growth period. They were the 27th and 29th fastest growing company in America in back-to-back years with Derrik at the helm. Derrik is well known for helping employees focus on having a growth mindset, attracting great talent, developing that talent, and being a servant leader. Derrik's knowledge of employee development has allowed him to continue his path in leadership and growth at busybusy, where they are hiring more than a new employee every week on average. Please welcome Isaac and Derrik.
Thanks a lot, Amber. I sure appreciate the introduction. So we hope to have a really good webinar today, and we're talking about one of our favorite topics, which is culture. And today's focus is on how to attract and retain key employees in your business. And honestly, there probably isn't a more important topic to go over. So the presentation today is going to touch on 6 different points. We're going to talk about technology in your business, about how you can provide value to your team members, how to identify and create an environment that attracts and retains your A players. We're going to go over bonus systems, how to keep score or keeping score, and then learning how to be a company that's addicted to data. So these are the 6 main focuses of our presentation. And Derrik and I, our presentation style is really just to have a conversation about this and go through it. And so we hope you enjoy it and hope you feel free anytime to text in questions or type them into the chat, and Amber will help make us aware of that, and we'll also be watching the chat as well. So Derrik, appreciate you doing this with me today.
Yeah, it'll be good. Thanks everybody for joining us, and just to reemphasize what Isaac said, if you have any questions on the cuff, like we mentioned to Amber before we get going, we've done this presentation before. It's why we were requested to be here and do the presentation here. It's gone pretty well, but it's very much more of a conversation than it is meant to be a rigid presentation. And so if anyone has any particular thoughts or questions that they want to chat in with, we'd let Amber know that, hey, there will probably be an opportunity or two to jump in and have some of those questions come in as we're free flowing through the conversation. So we're excited to be here.
Yep. So first off, we want to talk about technology, just technology in your business, and we're in an age of technology. And so when we're focusing on attracting and retaining top talent, the younger generation, you know, my age, I'm kind of a late Gen X, you know, or younger Gen X, but my age and younger, going into the millennials and so forth, they're all really expecting technology in business, and we are in the technology era, and it is exciting. And so when we have to do things using paper and pencil and, you know, kind of rudimentary or old systems, you know, obviously we can do it. You know, we know how to do it, and we can make those things happen. But part of it is this young talent is starting to expect better. They know that technology can assist in some of these menial tasks and some of these things that they're required to do. So they're starting to expect it. And so technology really starts to become part of that reputation of your business, where if you're adopting technology, you look like you have your together better, and that you're staying with the times and you're keeping on top of stuff. So we want to make a heavy, you know, just advocacy that in your business, just to get the mentality of learning to adopt technology. And we can talk a little bit about, you know, how it's good for you. You know, a lot of people say, well, what is technology going to do for me? What it really does, technology solves problems and it solves tasks. And so when you take different menial tasks that you have in your business, where you want to focus technology is on taking care of things that help get you data and information, and also help replace tasks that really don't produce revenue. And so time tracking, of course, what busybusy does, is one of those tasks, and processing payroll is one of those tasks. There's many different tasks that you have to do in your business, and they don't produce revenue. And so getting those tasks automated and systemized using technology is really a massive benefit for the company business owner, and for your employees. It shows an indicator of just who you are as a company.
Well, and it's something we see a lot. We get a lot of growth in our business from a new employee joining an organization, and when they see that people are using texting to send in their time, or paper still, or even a really, really poorly designed some type of app. Like very, very frequently, we get calls, submissions on our website of people saying, hey, we just hired a new employee. They used busybusy at their last organization. They immediately said, like, hey, this is going to be so much better for the employees if you use this. And it's not just time, it's everything. When you look at a daily project report, for those of you who are having dailies be required by a general, like the amount of time that it takes to fill out a daily at the end of a day, when the supervisor is at his lowest point of energy, and he's looking forward to getting home, or she's looking forward to getting home, and they're trying to get that filled out, and they're trying to remember everything that somebody did and if there were any injuries. There's so much information that's lost in translation when you have a supervisor at the end of a day trying to fill out information on paper. Whereas if you're using technology that's tracking information throughout the day, it should be aggregating that information for you. That's why when you look at manufacturing as an industry, manufacturing has grown in efficiency by over 500% in the last 50 years. Construction has grown by 4%. Construction, I believe in the next 10 years, when you look at like construction technology is taking off in a way that it just hasn't previously. And so as we're getting into adoption of a lot of different technologies, a lot of different softwares, technologies on the job site, even simple things in tile like leveling, the way that it's done now versus previously, it's all technology. And it makes things so much more efficient that anybody who isn't using it, well, we've got a quote on it, but they're already behind.
Yeah, that's right. That is correct. In my business, you know, in the excavation world, we started using GPS technology 2 decades ago, and we were barely dabbling into it, you know. And back then, most people didn't use it. Well, if you fast forward to today, 2 decades later, if you don't use GPS technology, you can't even be in the excavation world. It's just you can't compete without it.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is a little bit unique on the poll questions, just because we're using GoToWebinar's platform. When we did this webinar previously, we had a platform that we were using where you could actually upload the poll questions in it, and the people that were attending were able to jump on and answer the poll questions. We knew coming into this platform that we wouldn't have the ability to do that, but we wanted to leave these slides in it because we'd still like people to comment in the chat. We'd love to see the information coming in of what paper processes have you guys who are attending this webinar, your businesses, what have you replaced with technology and you're off of paper? And we'd love to see some of those chats come in. We can talk a little bit about that. And then we'll also share with you the percentages on each of these. I believe there's 5 poll questions from the last presentation that we did, so that you can see if that sounds similar to your business. So we'll give a quick 30 seconds here to see some chats come in and see what people are getting off paper.
Yeah, it's amazingly, paper is one of the key things that we run into today, even with busy when we're selling and working with different companies. That's the number one thing that we see out in the industry. So we're not surprised to see a lot of people on paper. And one of the disadvantages to paper is wonderful in lots of ways, right? You say you can do just about anything on it, but one of the huge disadvantages is it gives you no trending analytics, no data, nothing that you can capture and keep for the future, so you can go back and reference and learn from it. And that's one of the big differences with using these forms of technology.
Okay, so it looks like, based on the comments that we're getting here, it looks pretty similar to what we had before. Previously, when we did this, it was really, really interesting. There was about 35% of people who had started using the technology for their daily reports to know what was being done on a daily basis for their crews and their projects. There's about 40% of people that were using a time tracking technology. And then the safety, the work accomplished, the scheduling, and the work orders were all significantly less. So yeah, interesting stuff there, just to see trends are pretty consistent, and it's something where the industry that we're in still is moving toward the adoption of technology and improving efficiency.
Yeah, and this is a great quote from a friend of ours who does another podcast. It's Andrew Houston, who does Profit for Contractors. He says, if you have not brought technology into your business, you're already way behind. And we agree with that. I mean, I agree with it wholeheartedly. Again, I still own part of an excavation business, and I'm involved in that, and also part of a construction business. And basically, the adoption of technology really helps you get ahead, and it helps you to systemize your business in ways that helps increase your profit. And so what that can do in a good economy is it makes you a lot more money, okay? And that's of course what we're all in business for. But in a bad economy, in a downturn, what the technology can do is assist you in being competitive, so that you can really shave off your costs, trim your fat, tighten your belt a little bit, and really be able to see where that you can move and accomplish more profitability and really be more competitive. So I 100% support what he's saying here. You are already behind, and I made that example of GPS in the excavation world, and it's true. 2 decades later, you can't really survive doing excavation if you're not run by GPS technology.
Well, and it's not just that you're behind in the times, you're behind as an organization in regards to where you should be in profit. When you look at what technology does, one of the things we know is you can't improve what you don't measure.
Yes.
And rarely do people have the ability to measure something as efficiently as they would if they're adopting technology. So the second that you start putting technology in any part of your job to where you have historical data to benchmark against, you start to understand the consistency of a certain laborer and how many square feet of tile they can get done, how long it takes to get certain rooms done, and what that looks like when it's walls and certain types of tile. There's so many things that if you're using a software that you can go back on and look at what that labor effect is. Because the highest variable on a job site, you look at it, you know your material cost, you buy the tile once, the material cost is locked in. So where are you going to lose and make money? It's on your labor. So if you don't understand historical information and then you can't benchmark against it, how do you reward people who are your very best people? How do you recognize them? How do you bring visibility to them? And then the other side of it is, how do you make hard decisions when you really like someone, but their production seems down? Does it seem down, or is it actually down because you have the technology to be able to measure that information?
Yeah, this goes back to, when we talk about attracting people with technology, is when you have high producers come in and they see that you don't you don't use very good tracking systems, then to me, like you're pointing out here in your examples, as a high producer, it discourages me because I think no matter how high I produce, I'm just going to have this blended average with everybody else. And honestly, producers they want to know that you know. They want to know that you know what they're producing at. And that's why technology can help influence people on making a decision of whether they want to work for you or not. They want to see whether you're, kind of up and coming and on the cutting edge of technology.
Yeah. So
All right.
admittedly, after the first poll question, this was a lot more fun when you could actually see the poll answers on the screen because you would see it moving up and down. So this is a little bit less fun for us and for the audience to just see some chats coming in. But I do still think it's good just for the sake of engagement and be able to have you guys, more than anything, whether you're writing yes or writing no, I think it's important that you're asking these questions to yourself. When you're looking at these poll questions and being able to evaluate your company, when you're evaluating, okay, truly, how do I hire? How do I retain key employees? These poll questions will have a more significant impact than I think anyone will realize if you take the next 30, 60 days and ask these questions weekly, ask where you can improve them. This is another one of those places where it's not just do you offer employee training and development, but how good is your employee training and development for those of you who are saying yes?
Yeah, so as we give it a moment here, offering employee training development, really the key is just offer an opportunity. Do you offer value to your employees so that they can see that, hey, if they come work for you, then they get really great value out of their time. They're not just spending their time there, but they're advancing in their life, and that's important. If you're not offering training and development, it's really going to be much harder for you to attract the top talent that's out there in the industry. Okay, so last time we did this, I think what we saw is training and development, we saw around 80%, and I think that's probably consistent here too, but see around 80% of companies are offering some form of training and development.
Yep, sorry about that. I clicked too far. There we go.
No problem. This is exactly what I want to talk about is when you try to attract top talent, the truth is most of you on here are top talent yourselves. Okay, if you were not, you probably wouldn't be interested in a webinar like this because you're excited to grow and improve yourself and improve your understanding of business and business management and things like that. And so your employees, your key employees, your A players, they're the same. They want to be part of a team. They want to know they're contributing to a winning team. That's why they're interested in technology, because they want to know that they're coming to win. I've had my employees say before, I just want to win. I just want to be part of a winning team. And so you have to really bring in this kind of value as far as developing that talent. And the key word is opportunity. What opportunity do the employees have that are coming to work for you, or the ones that are working for you? Derek, I'll let you go through the communication because I know you're pretty passionate about that one.
Yeah, so the right level of communication, let your team know where they are at so they can get better. So there are a couple of things specifically that I would point out that I've tried to make a habit of. So one of the first things that I have implemented here, and I have our team leads do this as well, and it seems to go very, very well, is there's the original job description that you hire somebody for, and then there's the ability 90 days after to do a 90-day review. And at that 90-day review, what we'll do is we'll take the job description and then sit down with the employee and outline that and say, okay, what part of your job, if you'll go through and highlight all the things that were part of the job offer that you're already doing, and then if you'll target the things that you haven't got to yet so that we can talk about those, and then talk about some of the things, if you'll write in some things that you're doing that weren't anticipated. So maybe you hire a new laborer who ends up being a team lead sooner than you thought, so he's running a crew. That's important for them to be able to have the opportunity 90 days in to have a conversation about that. Or maybe you hired somebody who you thought was going to be a crew lead, and then you recognize pretty quickly that, man, they're really good at setting tile, but it's pretty disruptive when I had them run a crew. So again, being able to take a document that was originally created and then be able to have that employee. So my employees, they'll come into my office, they'll sit down with me, and they'll have the job description and everything's highlighted and they've got notes on it, and we're going through every single one of the bullet points. And if you don't have bullet points on your job description, start there. Actually outline the conversation. What made this person want to work at your organization? What type of conversation? What did you need? What did the job description look like? What were your expectations when you brought them on? Do a better job of outlining that in the job description so that when they come on, you have something to refer to 90 days later. So at that 90-day point, they come in, they highlight those things. It presents a great opportunity for a lot of really good conversation. One of the things where a lot of conversation breaks down is people feel like, oh shoot, I'm getting sent to the principal's office. Here I am going in with an executive level person at the company, or a management level person, their individual boss. And if the conversation doesn't allow them to come in and be collaborative, it's going to die pretty quickly. So they get a point of reference, which is really important. Here were the expectations coming into it. Here's how they've shifted. And then we'll go through all of that, and then we'll update that so that way they know what the expectations are over the next 6 months, so that everybody can adjust and be on the same page. Because it's no different than a spouse, a friend, or anything else. The majority of your failures in a relationship is based on a failed opportunity to set realistic expectations. So the more you go about setting expectations, communicating about those things, having the employee be involved in those things, talk about what they're doing that's extra rather than you focus on what they're doing that's not, then it's easier to bring up the, oh, hey, yeah, there is this thing on there that you haven't got to yet. Is that something we want to make a priority, and be able to go through all of that?
So I love that you talked a lot about setting expectations, because in our research, one of the biggest ways you can improve productivity on the job site is really to start setting expectations. When you hire people, and it's really kind of a typical thing in the construction industry, we don't often be very formal about it. We're just like, hey, get to work. But if you actually set expectations and go through bullet points of the things that you expect of this hire, when you hired them, there was a reason. You wanted them to solve a problem or to accomplish certain work, take work off your hands, whatever that reason is. Outline for them and be clear about it, because that clear communication of expectations actually increases performance. It's one of the lowest hanging fruits, that you can just increase performance in your company and increase productivity just by setting those clear expectations.
Well, and if you have decent communication but not great communication, expectations can be so different. Like, I just had an employee we just barely hired, but as he was going through the interview process, he made the comment a couple different times in a couple different interviews of, I just show up and I grind. So after he had said that in the second interview, in the third interview, he had said that again. I said, hey, walk me through that. At the current organization that you're at, you say you show up and grind. What does that mean? What time do you show up? What time do you leave? Is it that it's not that you're working super long hours, that you're grinding in the time you're there because you're super focused? Or is it that you show up earlier than everybody else, you stay later? Because when he's telling me that, my expectations are he's going to be first to show up and last to leave, and he's going to be focused the whole time. But what he articulated back, and it was good that I asked the clarifying question, was more so it's the attention to work when he's there. That he's like, yeah, hey, sometimes I'll get to work super early because my kids will have stuff in the evenings and I want to make sure and get out by 4. Other days I'll show up at 9 because I want to take my kids to school. And those days I'll stay until 6 or 7. I'm not going to leave until things are done. But more than anything, it's the level of focus when I'm there. So again, rather than just flippantly going through a conversation and taking things at face value, if you want to be on the same page with somebody so that you can bonus them out, do different things to put them in the best position to win, ask good questions so that your expectations and their expectations align.
So the other things we have here, the tools to be successful and the training. The tools to be successful, it's really, kind of goes hand in hand with the rest of these things we're outlining here, where, even as simple as the timekeeping solution we at busybusy offer, if I want my employee to clock in and out, tell me how much time they spent, what they spent their time doing, what project they were on, what task as far as what type of tile, all those things, giving them a tool so that they can make that easy is a real key to success. And the same with daily reports and anything else that you ask them to do. Similar to the tile setting itself, you give them the tools that they need to make that work accomplished. Any other tasks that you require, reporting that you require from, you need to give them those tools to be successful as well. And so, like it says here, archaic technology does leave you at a disadvantage. It leaves you at a massive disadvantage. Training again, I like to focus on opportunity, and we're about to hit our favorite topic here, which is A players. But you have to be able to provide opportunity for your employees. If you don't have opportunity for them to move up, to level up within your business, or to make, whether it's making more money or being able to move up in their position, whatever the case is, if they can't see a clear path to drive them towards a higher success level, then you'll end up with people with low ambition. And it's not who you want to have in your organization. You want to have the A players.
So I know we hear this a lot. We have over 6,000 customers. There's over individual companies that use our product. There's 57,000 individual employees that use it. So we have a lot of conversations with a lot of different people, and constantly contractors talk about something that was in another podcast that is a good friend of ours. And he had talked about the reason people don't show up is there's not enough value. And he talks about it not showing up for interviews, not showing up for work. And so that is one thing where, hey, you can tell yourself all you want that you do a good job with training and that you do a good job with culture, but if there are employees who you're either struggling hiring or you're struggling to get them to show up, like there are questions that need to be asked of, okay, do I see myself? Do I see my company the way that other people see myself and see my company? Am I investing in not just a toolbox talk to check off that, hey, we did our safety conversation today, but truly teaching something unique, a particular skill about how to lay a certain type of tile, or maybe it's the particular math to be able to solve a problem to make it go quicker. Like my wife and I built a home recently, and the actual tile guys that were on the house were probably still telling horror stories about the home because my wife had a basket weave tile and these different designs, but one of the guys really struggled with the ability to do the math to be able to do that basket weave. And so he tried to call his boss tried to talk about it over the phone, but you could tell he was frustrated. So I just took the time myself to go, okay, hey, let's just work through this together. It's really not a big deal. Let me show you how this works on paper. And that way you can do it the next time really easy. And this becomes something that you could actually want to show a picture to a homeowner of and say, hey, you should do this, because not a lot of tile layers could do it, but I can do it. I can do it quick. And so we just took the time there to talk about the math behind a particular type of tile design. So a lot of different ways that you could uniquely invest in making the employees better. And the question just has to be, am I doing that? Are we spending the time? And where you spend the time. Isaac mentioned the A players thing. This is the favorite topic for us in this entire conversation, is how do you identify A players? What type of data do you use to back that up? I think everybody on this likely would say, I hope that all the people that I hire turn into A players or are A players. So what does that look like? You can't just hope. That generally when you're sitting around hoping for something, it doesn't come to fruition. And so more so the focus is, all right, let's talk about the steps so that we can help you identify these people and that you can have information to be able to help people become an A player if they're not there yet. It goes back to that whole, you can't improve what you don't measure. So what information, how do you measure stuff inside your business? How do you give information? Because A players will respond really well to this.
Yep, so next poll question is, for your company, what percentage of total employees do you consider to be A players? And, you know, to give you just a little bit of a hint of an A player, you know, so many times I've heard business owners and managers say, oh, I wish I could clone myself. An A player is someone who is kind of like that. They're kind of a clone of you. In other words, they get it, they want to do it. They're high achievers, high producers, and also high communicators. An A player is who you want in your business. And they're also, you know, we'll get into more details of what A players are, but they're also people that you love to work with, that have integrity, that have values, that you're not actually trying to check up on and fight over everything.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about the slide. I just showed this slide as you were chatting because it aligned with what you were saying before people really look at this question. I think the interesting thing with the question, when we asked this before, it was probably the most surprising answer that we had because it was all over the map. We had businesses, like 20% of businesses said that their A players were 10 to 20% of their total employees. Another 20%, like it was segmented pretty consistently. I think it was actually 30. I think 30% said 20 to 40, 30% said 40 to 60, and then another 20% said 60 to 80, where it was pretty consistent, 20, 30, 30, 20, fragmented in these 4 lower tiers of where businesses felt like their employees fell as an A player.
Yeah. Let's pull up that other slide again you showed there. And because this is a good indication of A players. A players, they do want to be tracked. They want feedback on how they're doing and where they can do better, how the right data is not only, you know, good for your company, but it's good for your employees. A players really want to know how they can optimize their performance. And for any of you on here that are, you know, sports fans, just consider if you're, you know, whatever your sports team is, whether you're into basketball or football. I'm a little bit older on sports. Derrek's more up to date. But you consider, you know, if you're on a basketball team or you know your favorite players on a basketball team, how likely are they to go to a team that does not track them? Someone that doesn't track their stats and their scores and help show them and improve them and teach them how to win. When I talk to business managers, I often use the sports analogy and say, you need to see yourself as a coach. You are a coach and you're trying to put together a team, and you're trying to put together the team of the best people that can make the best performance in your business to drive the best profitability. And so being the coach, it's not just hiring people and expecting them to do the job without you coaching them. You are the coach. And an A player will want to hear that feedback. They want to know, how can they do better? What can they do to be a better part of the team? And what are their certain stats and how can they improve those stats? This is who you want to work with. This is your business, and you want a team. You want to create that team mentality.
Yeah, as Isaac mentioned, I'm a bit of a sports nut. I can't imagine watching a sporting event if they didn't keep score. So that's the other side of it too. It's like, why would you want to be in an organization that they don't keep score? Think it might be hard to implement a couple things where you can keep score, but after 90 days, nobody would ever go back. Like the idea of not having that information to show who your best producing employees are and what they're doing, and even for those who aren't the best yet, the idea of just them getting better, to be able to do more, to have a bigger impact. There are a lot of companies that do some really cool bonuses because they're tracking the right information, which is fantastic because it allows those companies to scale like crazy because the A players get compensated, and so they retain them in a way that they don't have to worry about someone else coming in and offering them an extra $1 an hour. It's like, you don't have to worry about that. If you're tracking the right information and providing that in a detailed way, it gives you the ability to educatedly compensate, bonus out, and do the things that you need to do to ensure that they're happy. So next, I'm going to share, this is something that going back to the hiring process, this is something that this quote I use during my interviews. And the way that I use it is I take these 6 words and I write them randomly on a whiteboard that I have in my office. So the 6 words are integrity, motivation, capacity, understanding, knowledge, and experience. Okay, those are my 6 core values. Those are the 6 core values that I hire off of. that I fire off of, and that I promote off of. Someone wants to get promoted, they're going to align with these things. Someone wants to get a job, they're going to align with these things. Easiest way to get fired, go against these things. So what I'm interested in through the interview process is I'll ask somebody, the reason I write them out randomly is I'll say, hey, will you just take this dry erase marker and will you put these in order of things that you value most? Now, the interesting thing about this quote, I want to take a second and read it because of the impact that it has made. As Amber read in the bio, it's 20 years now that I've been in management of marketing and sales organizations, but I spent about 16 years making decisions off of these core values without having this quote. I read this quote in a book. It was, the quote came from Dee Hawk, the CEO of Visa, so it's not mine. But when I read it, it resonated because I'm like, this is what I do, and I've never been able to articulate it the way that he does. So he says, hire and promote first on the basis of integrity. Second, motivation. Third, capacity. Fourth, understanding. Fifth, knowledge. And last and least, experience. Why would you do that? Why would you put knowledge and experience at the bottom? Well, and then he explains, without integrity, motivation is dangerous. I think everybody here, probably, if you've been in business more than a couple of years, you could raise your hand and say, yeah, for sure. I've seen someone extremely motivated who lacks integrity. Those are the most dangerous people. I don't want anybody who is more motivated than has integrity. So without integrity, motivation is dangerous. Without motivation, capacity is impotent. Same thing. Capacity, going back to the sports analogy, you have this kid who's a sophomore, extremely fast, strong, should be the best kid on the football team. His capacity is through the roof, but he just shows up and doesn't really work that hard. Versus this kid who is a junior and grinds every single day, all day, super reliable. That person, capacity is limited pretty quickly and becomes impotent when you don't have motivation. So integrity first, motivation second, capacity third, and then understanding, because understanding and knowledge are very, very different in the fact that if you have someone that has the knowledge, but they don't have the ability to get out on a job site and take that knowledge and make it real life, to have a practical element of problem solving, that's where knowledge becomes valuable, is once you have someone with understanding.
Yeah, understanding we often call common sense.
Yeah. Common sense is a good way to replace that there. So, and then knowledge and experience. So when you look at these things, I think the consideration should be made, if somebody doesn't have those top four things, not only are they not an A player, they're not a B player. And what are you doing in your organization if you have a bunch of C players and D players? That's not the type of organization that's fun for other employees to be a part of. It's not the type of organization that's fun to be an owner of. It's not the type of organization that's fun to be an office administrator of, because everybody causes you headaches.
That's right. The key right there is understanding the difference between A and B players. Because when we talk about A players and we have this list of 6 items, like, wow, this is a super person, we would love to have this person on our team. But the reality is, what you're saying is, you can create A players by starting with B players and moving them into A players, and you should really not have C players. And Derek and I, last time we talked about this, is you look at those first 4 characteristics, integrity, motivation, capacity, and understanding, or call that common sense. None of those include knowledge or experience yet. And our opinion is that is a B player. A B player is someone that you bring in, they have all the right characteristics, they have the motivation, they're willing to be trained, they're willing to learn, they're willing to do this. This is a B player. This is fantastic. Your company should be filled with A players and B players. And B players are people that are able to be molded and shaped into A players. And so that should be kind of a funnel where you're bringing in and training them and helping them turn into A players.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, it really is a fair question to ask. Are your employees, if you use this as benchmarks, do you have A players, B players, C players? Because it's a pretty clear line. Love those 6 core values because it really does segment pretty quickly your A players and your B players, and it tells you anybody that doesn't have those top 4 shouldn't really be considered for a job. Because if I can't trust you, what can I do with you?
That's right. So this last one, we should probably move along a little bit faster here. So maybe we can just talk about the poll from last time. This last one, do you currently have bonus incentive programs? This is a great question. Do you have bonus incentive programs to basically help motivate your employees to actually do more? Do they get rewarded more for doing more or for rising above the standard expectations? And that's another place where you set clear expectations so they know this is what we expect you to do with the wage that we pay you, and here's systems that we have in place to go above and beyond that. And I think what was our last program here, we had 60 or 70% were offering bonuses.
Shocking amount. We thought going into it, it would be around 30% that have bonus incentive programs, and it was over 60.
Yeah. Okay. So bonus systems, basically, if you look at, we study a lot where businesses come from, and so a lot of companies will complain and say, well, I train my competition because I train them in, and then I get them to be really good, and then they go start their own business and compete with me. Usually there's a reason for that, and what the reason is the owner hasn't created a system that really puts on golden handcuffs on their top performers, and that's really what you have to do. And the golden handcuffs, we've talked about it before, is you have to give them opportunity. Top performers want the opportunity. They want to be able to control their own destiny, control their own fate, have the ability to, if you think about why you went into business for yourself, you want more time and you want more money. You've got to give them an opportunity to achieve that at some degree. And if you can help them basically fill their need for hope and achievement and drive satisfied within your company, then you're putting on these golden handcuffs to help them stick around through these bonus systems. And last time we talked a little bit, we got more into the bonus systems. I don't know if we'll get into them this time because our time is kind of running a little bit short.
Yeah.
But the key here is really what I said up front is set your expectations. This is what we expect you to perform based on the pay that we're giving you. And you should know that. And if you don't know that, then we've got to get you also, on target with job costing and job tracking. But you need to understand, here's the pay and here's what we expect of you. And then we have some bonuses in place that if you're able to go above and beyond with your quality and your performance, then we've got some bonuses where we'll share in the additional profits with you. And this works out really great. And honestly, I can't think of a better place to do this than Tile because it's probably one of the easiest ones to measure. It's a clear definition of you've got this much Tile you need to put in. I know there's many different forms and difficulties of Tile, but still the measurement of the achievement or the accomplishments is probably pretty clear.
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately it goes back to expectations, being able to say, okay, hey, here's the estimator on this job. They estimated this job to be this and to take us 2 weeks to do. So here's the deal. If we can get done and have it be done well, right? That's always the balance, is how do you improve efficiency while not sacrificing quality, but the ability to have it done well and be done early so that you can move on to another job. You didn't just gain 2 days because you finished early. Now you're on to another job. So you're making money there while saving money there. So the impact is compounding, just like compounding interest, in a way that allows you to really bonus that out if they get done early and it's done right. So we already talked about
one of the questions is always about keeping up with quality, and a great way to do that is just to, as you're introducing these bonus systems, to have a quality inspector, whether it's you or someone else, to go along and make sure that, that if you don't already have that in place, that the quality inspection's done. Sorry, Derek, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just going to mention that we've already talked a lot about this, and where you had mentioned we're wanting to be cognizant of time, that we won't spend too much time here. It's been intertwined in a lot of the conversation. Is if you can get better at keeping score, you can get better at everything else. Setting expectations is easier. Bonuses are easier. Talking about what you were hoping to accomplish versus what got done. it all ties together. Once you start measuring, you start improving, and you start getting your top performers rising to the top and feeling super appreciated because you're positive reinforcement.
That's right.
Were you going to say anything else there?
Yeah, it's again, I talked about this already, and I can't overemphasize this enough, is you need to see yourself as a coach. Whether you're the manager, the crew leader, the boss, you've got to coach your people. And in order to coach them properly, you need to keep score. When I was on the job site directly myself, I would try to line up all the work ahead of the workers and keep track of all of it and track it and help them see how much they were achieving every day. And what was awesome is it just created this natural competition, because when they see it, just like this says here, when you keep the score, you see your score. If you're down by 1 or you're down by 2, whatever the case is, you're motivated to be as good or better than you were the day before or the week before. You certainly don't want to fall behind, and you would like to beat your prior scores and achieve more. You want to achieve more work, more performance. And so then if you have these A players, what they're going to do is look to you as the leader, as the coach, to say, hey, how can we beat the score? What can we do? And you're literally going to get them on the same page as you, as in brainstorming how you can create a better performance. And this, by the way, is just, the whole topic today is so near and dear to my heart. Derek is here because I hire A players, and A players make your life better. They make your life so much better. When you start getting people that take ownership, they take personal ownership of what they're doing, and they accomplish their goals and their tasks, you no longer have to worry about those specific parts of your business. And when you start getting those people surrounding you in your business, not only will you start making a lot more money and a lot more productivity, but you'll find out your headaches are less and your stress is less. And so I often will tell people, love yourself more, keep score, track your business, start hiring the right people, actually spend time on yourself so that you can actually have more time to do things. And you achieve that all by attracting A players and keeping the score. And so, I know I'm getting on a soapbox there, but it's tremendously important. It will solve the majority of your problems.
Yeah, and it ties right into the next slide where we're here talking about being addicted to data. If I showed you guys the dashboards that we have that measures efficiency and allows us to have conversations inside these walls, we don't have problems of somebody getting promoted who thought that somebody else should have, because it's all data based, and there's a bunch of conversations around it. There's individual conversations around it, there's group conversations around it, but it all starts with reporting and measuring. And the interesting thing about this, and the reason that this is a topic that we are asked to have conversations on a lot, is number one, it's something that we very much drink our own medicine. We very much subscribe to this, but it's also the reason that busybusy exists. When you look at the product as a whole, the reason that it started to exist is because Isaac was obsessive about capturing data from the field. And for any of you on here who watch Shark Tank, it's the perfect founder story that they go on Shark Tank and they pitch and everybody falls in love with, because it's someone from the industry who's saying, I own a masonry company, I own an earthwork company, I own all of these different companies where we're sitting here out doing on a tile job and we have zero visibility, and there wasn't a solution that provided it. And so the interesting thing about getting addicted to data is, I'm going to jump a couple of slides here and help people understand what that means from an impact level. The average organization that uses busybusy increases their profitability by 30% within 12 months of rolling out the product. Now, that truly, I'll show you guys the product and we can do a product pitch, but that's not what this part of it, I want to make sure this is about the data that you should capture and the journey that we've been on. So the interesting thing in Isaac's vision, when he brought me in he showed me this massive wireframe, all these different designs of everything the software is going to become. It's a 20-year project. We're 12 years into this. That's why we've got 60,000 different contractors out in the field using the product. But it's a journey. And we looked at the product, and Isaac, when he was like individually starting to talk to the software developers, saying, what are we going to build first to get to A to Z, right? Soup to nuts. It had to be time tracking first because of the high variable that is on those job sites. If
Yep.
we couldn't track where we were making and losing money with individual employees and on projects, how could we get all of the other information?
That's right. That was the key to everything. Is if you look at your variable data, you know, again, we started out this, and in the tile industry, I believe this is true as any other industry, but maybe even more true, is your materials are probably easier to comprehend and understand what your price is involved there. But your performance, your labor, how long it takes you to lay a specific type of tile in a specific type of circumstance, you know, those are the things that are hard to not only track so that you can do better bidding and estimating of your projects, but also track and communicate to your employees on what your expectations are and how these are supposed to get accomplished. Because if you all bid the work based on the way you yourself do it, then usually, you know, you're the best, right? That's why you went into business for yourself, because you're the best. And so you have to really track what's actually happening out there, and then trying to push and drive your team, like this webinar is about, to become the best, to become those A players that are working for you. Because again, even as you look at this menu of features that busybusy has, each one of these features is to solve a problem in your life and solve a problem in your business organization so that you don't have to think about it. And that's the real key, is you want to keep systematizing your business, including your people. And you do that by hiring the right people, by hiring the A players. And if you keep doing that and get you and your team to get a mentality of focusing on revenue producing activities, focus on things that make you money, that's where your time should be spent. Your time should not be spent focusing on menial tasks to save money. Your time should be spent optimizing and systematizing your business so that you can make more money and put your focus on revenue. And that's why people, you know, 30% increase in profitability is fantastic. I mean, it's amazing. But we have companies that do far better than that, because they take the information that we give them, and really all we're doing is helping them get their own information, and they use that to make decisions to make them, you know, I think one of the companies told us they made $1 million more that year because they were using this information.
Yeah, it had been about 10 months. It was a waterproofing company out of Wisconsin, and they had been using it about 10 months, and their profit had increased by over $1 million.
Yep.
They were able to save over $500,000 in wasted time that they found based on where people were clocking in, and the fact that they realized how much time their best employees were spending on non-value time. There's actually a really good podcast about an electrical group who they measured something very similar, which was time in front of a wall. So the question has to be with all of our groups on here is, how much time are your best tile layers actually laying tile? Because that's where you make money, that's where they make money. And so drawing efficiencies, that's where, so one of the things I did pretty early on when Isaac and I got together is he and I were building this presentation where we were talking about showing time to value. Show somebody the city you're going to build, because that's the aha moment of going, oh my gosh, I want that. And then go to the boring stuff of, this is how we're going to build it. So I'm going to do something similar here, if I can, where I'm going to back out of this presentation and I'm going to show you guys an aha moment of what we're talking about from a data collection standpoint. So here you go. This is a budget on one project that is currently being used with Tyler Avenue. Now you can see a couple other projects up here, but Tyler Avenue, here you go. What you should be able to see in real time at all times. Measure it, improve it, report it, talk about it, reward based on it. It's, here's the estimate of labor hours we thought were going to be on the project. Here's the estimate of labor costs that we thought were going to be on the project, and they are different, right? If you have 4 supervisors on one versus 2 on another, your cost is going to be significantly less. And then progress value. Okay, hey, if you're up here at 70% on hours and cost and you're only 50% done with the progress because they're reporting at the end of the day how many square feet of tile got done, you know you're in trouble. In this case, look at the progress value. This is a crew that would get bonused out because they are ahead of schedule. And the way that you do that, this is one way. It doesn't need to be us. It can be anything, but start using technology to bonus, reward, recognize, set expectations. But here is one way to do it. It's as simple as having the employee clock in, they grab the project here, and they say what project they're on, okay? In this case, let's just grab the quickest one here at the top. And they're off and running. You can assign scaffolding into that equipment. You can have different types of cost codes, whether it be setting wall tile or floor tile, a lot of different circumstances that you could have them push to, which would track different codes. But that's it. That's all you're doing. The scheduling down here makes your office staff life much easier, because now they're communicating through a product. The schedule shows up at the bottom, tells them exactly where to be with the location, what materials to have, and then the progress sits right here, where at the end of the day, all they're going to do is clock out, show that they were safe on the job that day. So thank goodness, nope, no injury, which is a huge liability thing. Yes, follow break compliance if that's applicable in your state. Yes, my time is correct. You submit that. Here's your progress information so that you can actually show square feet of tile. No progress has been reported today, but you would grab this. And again, my failure on this, I should have had a tile one pulled up, but I just grabbed the cost code that was most accessible there with gravel. But here you could report dump trucks of gravel. In your case, of course, reporting, you can report material with bucket bags of grout, or you can report just square feet of tile done. But the ability to do that and then track back to those budgets are exactly what we're talking about when we talk about, hey, if you want to retain talent, if you want to attract talent, it was a really fun conversation we had with one of our contractors when we were down at Con Expo almost 3 years ago. He and the office administrator, she was telling us that they had not run an advertisement to hire an employee in over 4 years since they had started using busybusy, because they get so many referrals from current employees. There's a learning curve. There always is with technology. If y'all remember the first time you got your iPhone or your Android, it sucked. And now you're sitting here going, if I had to go back to a flip phone and I didn't have all of the things a smartphone has, my life would fall apart because I would be far less efficient. Usually takes 7 to 14 days. It's usually 2 full weeks to implement it, create structures and habits around it, but you start to attract and retain employees based on measuring, reporting, and setting expectations.
Well, fantastic. And thanks, Derek, for going through that and for showing some examples of some practical application for this each and every day. Because I think sometimes when we talk about all these things, they sound intimidating, they sound hard to do, but in reality, you know, at busybusy, we've worked really hard to make these things easy, because we understand, like Derek says, I'm from the industry. I know what it's like to be dirty and full of dirt and grease and grime and trying to engage with these things. So we try to make sure they're as easy as possible for your field to be able to accomplish.
One of the things that Isaac often says is, he's like, you know, as a CEO and a founder, he's like, really the only thing that I take pride in is being really good at hiring good people. One of the places that he did that, the designer of the app that I just showed, you guys saw how clean it was. He rather than going out and finding a traditional designer from just posting job applications and grabbing somebody from a university, we found someone who had gone to school for design but had worked in concrete for almost 10 years, and his dad and his brother still worked in concrete. So the execution of the way that the product is designed as you're looking here, the web dashboard, the daily project report, the actual time clock in, that was all designed by a guy who said, nope, this isn't good enough. I would have never used this. Nope, my dad won't use this. Nope, my brother won't use this. And so every time he went back to the drawing board, it was with tile contractors in mind. It was with earthwork companies in mind. It's why you go to our website, we only serve the construction industry because we know that we do this better than anybody else. And one thing that I will say, just in regards to, like, as you look at this screen and you see the dashboards and you see a daily project report, don't be overwhelmed. I just had someone in my office recently that I was talking to about this. Adopt technology and roll it out based on what you know you have to have today, and then in 6 months or a year, add other things to it. So if you only need time tracking to a project right now, do that. If you only need time tracking to a project with cost codes and a daily report on one project that a GC requires, do that. Like, don't get ahead of yourself. It's very much elephant, one bite at a time. If you go in tomorrow and try to do everything we just showed you and you've never done any of it before, that's where you might get a little bit more pushback than what you had hoped. And this is definitely something that can come in stages.
Thank you so much, Derek and Isaac. I think this has been a great presentation and a good overview of just how to attract and retain key employees. And I think it's interesting how your technology can help assist that, because ultimately with rewarding the A team players and things like that, I could see where obviously being more profitable is a key point. And then I think just like one thing just that I've noticed in the contractors that we know at the NTCA that are already using your product is that there's a lot of opportunity there with the speed of the information that's in their hands. And so, like, one thing you were saying is, just if what you track, then you can fix. And so if you do know that what the average is for maybe one of your installers, but you notice on a particular project that he's just not getting, as efficient as he normally is, then if you see that in as it's happening right then, you can talk to them, have that conversation, and find out maybe the prep isn't to the standard that it needs to be, and he's having to do additional work. And that gives you an opportunity then to address it with the GC, get a change order, and process that in real time, instead of trying to look at it in the rear view mirror and then try and get something approved that's already done. So I think the speed of the information, it's not just collect the information, but how fast can I have that so that I can react and make the moves so that our company can be more profitable. So I think that's maybe a big bonus as well, is you got to track it, but it also need to have it in time that you can do something with it.
Yeah, it's a great point. Change orders, extras, even the ability, because you're clocked into a project, to be able to take photos and it tags it right to that project. There's so much information at your fingertips when you're using technology that it goes back to that expectations. It's not just employees. You get to retain employees because you have better relationships with the GCs, because you're communicating at a level that a lot of the other subs that GC is using doesn't have. So it's a really good point that shouldn't be missed.
Well, I know we're a little bit over time. I know you had mentioned a little bit different books, and you have some information that you can reach out and give to people on kind of the deck of what you put together. And if anybody does have any questions, I think they'll be able to reach out to you guys direct. We'll get that information to you, so that way, if anyone is interested, they can talk to you, or you can reach out. So thank you very much to everybody who has attended. Thank you guys for this very informative webinar, and we hope to see more from Busy Busy with the NTCA.
Thank you, Amber.
Thanks,
Take care.
Amber.